I'm Luke Story. For the past 22 years, I've been relentlessly committed to my deepest passion, designing the ultimate lifestyle based on the most powerful principles of spirituality, health, psychology, and personal development. The Lifestylist Podcast is a show dedicated to sharing my discoveries and the experts behind them with you. All right, you guys, let's talk about some sleep.
Fantastic.
Great to see you again, Todd.
I know, it's been a while, a couple years.
Yeah. We did an episode way back in the day at Paleo Effects.
That's right.
And that was, well, not that I don't do that anymore, but that was like in the guerrilla days when I would just like go and basically poach people off the, the tech hall floor and be like, what's this thing you made? This is cool. Let's talk about it. It's
we
just fun.
Upstairs, pigeonholed in the second floor of the Palmer Center. That's right.
Yeah. And you guys have come such a long way. And also so glad that I found you because as we'll talk about, there's nothing that even comes close to having optimized my sleep than what you guys have created.
That's great. Really great to hear.
Yeah. And I'm so glad, Tara, that you came along too.
Yeah. It was nice he could bring me this time anyway.
Yeah, it's cool because I've been listening, as I always do, I've been listening to podcasts with you and I'm like, oh, Tara's like the secret weapon in the company. You know a lot of stuff. So I'm like, we're gonna extract much wisdom from you today.
Yeah, definitely a sleep geek.
So first thing I want to ask you guys, as a married couple that both run a company, what's that like? And how have you had any challenges with that? And if so, how have you learned
pretty
to
regularly.
overcome them?
I have quit so many times. I'm like, I can't work with you anymore. I'll get a job at McDonald's first. And I don't even like McDonald's. So that says like I would do that instead. But we've generally we have our rules of like, because back to sleep, I'm a morning person. So by 9:00, if he brings up work stuff and says, hey, I don't think we can, do something by tomorrow, I'm like, I'll stay up all night and not be able to sleep. And then he doesn't really want to hear at 6 a.m. when I'm up, like, I've solved that problem. I'm ready to go. He's like, give me till 8. I want to warm up. So we've kind of figured out our rules of how do we navigate that.
How long have you guys been married?
26 years.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
So a long time. We met the first day of college and we were both engineering students. I lasted 3 days. And I canceled all my classes. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but it's definitely not this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got all kinds of crazy stories about running life. Four kids together. We've been running businesses together as co-founders since 2000, so 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got. If you can imagine a crazy triumph/struggle as entrepreneurs, we've just about seen them all. So it's been kind of a fun adventure.
Well, I guess if you guys haven't figured it out by this time, something's wrong.
That's right.
That's a long time to be running companies together. I know a lot of people start out with that intention because we love each other's company and we have a great idea and we're passionate about the same things. But then when it gets into, the practicalities of having a romantic and a business relationship, a lot of people have a hard time with that. I've tried it and it was very challenging.
Yeah, we have a 51% rule that we kind of live by. So like if an issue comes up and I don't really care that much about it. I'm like, this is not 51% for me. If it's 51% for you, go ahead and this is yours to make. And we kind of hold that, I guess, that pull back that veto vote of like, nope, this is really important to me. This is I'm going to pull 51% on it. This is not an equal. I want this. I need this. This has to happen. And so far that has always served us to be that tiebreaker of, okay, I'm going to let you run with that one. That was your 51% thing.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Usually like when you're actually having a disagreement or a difference of opinion about an issue, the emotional energy almost always comes from another issue. Rarely is it like focused just on that one issue. It's like the baggage you bring in any relationship or any situation. So like the 51% rules have really been a fun way to like, hold on a second. On this one issue, do you really care that much? Or are you just like pissed about the other 6 things that happened like yesterday or last week? The other things like, no, actually you're right. I really don't care about this issue. I was just kind of frustrated about that.
You said you were going to get the garbage disposal fixed and you didn't do that either.
Right.
That's cool. So you guys just yesterday, and I didn't know this, you launched your new product, the Doc Pro. And for those listening, you're going to learn all about, we're going to talk about sleep and all the things that you guys have innovated, which are so awesome. But I want to tell you a quick funny story. So the Dock Pro is the new kind of motherboard, and it comes with this incredible mesh pad. It's kind of the Rolls Royce of the, what was once the Chilipad. So I got it a few days ago. It was here in the office, and I had it in a box, and I wanted to shoot some video and stuff about it. So I didn't want to bring it to our temporary apartment that's not very sightly and a bit off-brand. But I didn't want to be unintegrous or, inauthentic and talk about it today without having used it. So last night I was like, oh God, I got the interview with Todd and Tara tomorrow. I got to sleep on this one night so I can talk about it. So I plugged it in. It's super easy to set up, by the way. Some of this tech stuff is really annoying to set up. When it syncs to your phone, it doesn't work and all that. So good job on that. But I plug it in and I set it to my normal setting, which is like 65 maybe usually on an average, ambient temperature night. And I woke up freezing my ass off. This thing gets so cold because on the OOLER, the kind of middle unit, the second iteration, if it's warm out, I'll put that on low, like 61 or something, and it's just right. I don't even pay attention. I just like low. So whatever you guys did, I learned my lesson last night, and the temperature is real. You're going to get that temperature, and it was hella cold. So congratulations on nailing that. So when I used it yesterday, I didn't know that yesterday was the official launch. So by the time this recording comes out, it'll have, I don't know, a few weeks it will have been out. So maybe just to ramp up the excitement, tell me and those listening what you guys did with this latest innovation.
Yeah, pretty fun stuff. So the reason it felt so cold is a couple different reasons. Number one, it has twice the thermal capacity of anything else we've ever made. So we're measuring it in terms of watts of cooling capacity. So the control unit itself, the Dock Pro, has almost 100 watts of cooling capacity. So it's fantastic.
And we'll get into why those matter and why we did that in a minute. But
cool. And the reason that in the bed it felt so cold is the new pad, as you mentioned, it's a mesh top and it's got a urethane membrane that the water flows through. So there's no tubes. But because there's no tubes, it's 5 times the surface area of contact. So when you lay on it, rather than laying on tubes, that you're basically the conductive element of the thermal exchange is happening between the tube and your body. But it's only really in that surface area of contact that it's having the thermal transfer. So if we have basically a mesh network, more or less, of water that is still highly breathable, there's airflow between it, and we've designed it so it's comfortable to lay on, you get all of the thermal transfer of the entire grid network you're laying on. So 5 times the the surface area of what you're laying on. So the conductive, thermal capacity of exchange is radically higher.
That makes sense because the older pads, they had the little silicone veins inside them. And I mean, it wasn't uncomfortable, but you could feel them if you put your hand on it, right? You're like, oh, that's where the veins are.
Yep. No, they're all gone. And we actually took us about 2 years to come up with using very, very detailed flow diagrams and mapping to engineer a flow path that even when you're laying on it, it still flows beneath you. There's like a bias of the diameter of the grids that they're widest at the middle where you're going to most likely lay on it, and they get a little bit thinner as they get to the outside, so it pushes the water underneath you.
Oh, that's
so,
cool.
There's all kinds of stuff. Like that's where we get so excited. We've literally been working on this product for 3 years. So
I remember seeing you at the biohacking conference, and I think you had one under the table, and you're like, "This thing's not out yet, but it's going to be awesome." Another cool thing about it, I mean, it's a minor thing, but if you use something like this all the time, it helps. There's like a little reservoir tank now where you fill up the water, because I found with the other ones, and again, not a big deal. I'm happy with whatever, but it was hard for me not to overfill it, because it has a little spout, and so I have like a jug of distilled water, and then it overflow on the floor, and I could never quite get it right. So I like that it has a little removable reservoir can. You can just pop the top off and fill it up super easy.
Exactly. Yeah, we've been listening for feedback. We care a lot about, making the best product, man. And part of that is listening to your customers. And we have a very kind of new power approach to our business, and it's really a vision that Tara brought, kind of her leadership style. And that's like listen to customer feedback, right? Listen to like user experience. We're always trying to find a better way to do it. Like we're never done. That product, as excited as we are about it, we're already like, all right, what can we do better? What can we do better? So yeah, but the fact that it launched yesterday and you get to try it on its inaugural day, pretty fun.
Yeah,
It's great,
and it
great
was
timing.
purely by chance. I had no idea that I thought it was everyone had it already. So yeah, that's cool.
No, you're one of the first.
Right on. Another thing about it, and we'll talk about a bunch more stuff. I think this is just top of mind because when I get a new tool or toy, which are often the same thing, I just get pumped. There was something else about it. Oh, much quieter.
Yeah. So it's got an amazing fan in it. We really spent time, actually we lined up the fans and like literally tested one by one. Not, there's a decibel rating, but there, if you listen to music, there's a difference between, just being loud and being an amazing sound. And so not only did we dial it in from just total volume, but you'll hear the quality of the sound is very different for the fan. The resonance that comes off of it is we really dial that in to be a pleasant resonance versus just quieter, because quieter, as we know, isn't all the same straight across. They can be
Right.
different
You could
levels
have
of.
like a car honking its horn at different volumes, but the level of annoyance is going to depend on the tone of the horn, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's dialed all the way down to that level.
That's cool. All right. Well, I'm stoked for you guys. Well, we're going to do a bunch of stuff here, but I wanted to cover that just because I said it was top of mind. So, a little bit about my history with the stuff you guys make. First, I'm just going to say, and it'll sound like I'm just saying this because you guys are here, but this is the honest to God truth. I've been really focusing on sleep for many years, and I've done a number of episodes about sleep, one with you, one with the CEO of Aura Ring, different sleep experts. There's nothing in the entire world of alternative health or biohacking to me that outweighs the impact of sleep. So I don't care how many supplements or PMF things or infrared saunas or red light therapy or all the things. I mean, I have tons and tons of amazing and powerful tools. None of them, even if I woke up sleep deprived and did every single thing I have, it would never equal a good night's sleep. You just can't beat it. And beyond that, as I've come to learn that, trying to kind of hack sleep deficits. So I started tracking my sleep and really putting a lot of focus on it. And not one thing has helped my sleep as much as the Chili Sleep technology, beginning with the first model, which was the Chilipad. Like my sleep scores, my quality of life, everything has gone up immensely. And there's literally nothing that helps my quality of sleep as much as controlling the temperature, specifically under where I'm sleeping, not like the room. Cold room is nicer than a hot room, but still, I don't get the kind of sleep that I get from what you guys have created. So
The science is pretty
that's,
fun when we can deep dive into
yeah,
that.
I
The
want to do
science of
that.
why that is beyond just our product, but temperature has an amazing spot in how sleep works.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into that, but I just want to give you guys props on that. And also, to that point, I know what I was getting at. I've actually packed my chili pad in my suitcase. I remember a couple years ago, I went to Spain and I think it was in the summer. It was hot as hell. And I'm like, I don't know what these hotels are, what the AC situation is. So I literally like took an extra suitcase, packed my chili pad, plugged it in every hotel. And it actually saved the trip
Hmm.
because as I predicted, there was a lot of it was on the island of Majorca. And so some of it was less developed than others, depending on where we stayed. And I've taken it on numerous road trips. And so I don't know that I would fly with it all the time. I'd probably just pay extra for a hotel that has really cold AC. But that's how like addicted to
Yeah.
it and dependent upon it I've become because I know what good sleep feels like and how I feel when I get it. So when I don't, which is usually because I'm overheating,
Hmm.
it's just absolutely imperative that I pay attention to that. And so,
For sure. And
yeah.
we've made every system we've ever made with a smart power supply inside it. So you don't have to worry about any voltage wherever you go. As long as you have a cord that'll fit into it, it'll take the power that's available. So we
Oh, cool.
totally designed our systems with the expectation that we know we're ruining a lot of vacations, that you got to bring extra stuff with you because once you get your sleep dialed in, it's kind of hard to walk away from it. In fact, that's why Tara and we got a motorhome because we're like, we love our sleep. So we literally take our whole bedroom with us when we go on vacation if we can stay on the East Coast. because like our sleep is, we know the impact of it. It makes everything else better, right? When you're out there kayaking or biking or paddleboarding, it's that much more fun because you slept great the night before. So, but yeah, the
Yeah.
smart power supplies, that's on all our systems so that we make it easier for people to travel with.
Sweet, dude. Sweet. I don't know that everyone's as extreme to me to fly with them. They're pretty substantial. But on that particular trip, definitely
Well, let
helped,
us know. We actually have Pelican cases that we have designed for
No
that
way.
because Todd and well, if you're in the sleep business, you can't show up to something and be exhausted because it doesn't
Right.
really sell the product if you're dragging at a trade show. So we travel with them. We've made it for lots of different celebrities or VIPs that need to travel with
Wow.
it. So full professional sports teams have the ability to pack those up and travel with them. So
Wow. I got a Pelican case right over there for my mobile studio. I love those things. So we talked a bit about your working relationship. Let's talk about the difference in sleep temperature preference between men and women. I always say that, well, the relationship that I'm in has lasted. Some of the others obviously didn't, not necessarily because of sleep incompatibility, but I've never slept with a female partner in my life that prefers the same temperature as I. It seems overwhelmingly that they like to sleep warmer,
mhm.
including my wife, Allison. Is that is that pretty universal? How many marriages have been saved by having the ability to control the temperature on either side?
Yeah, so it definitely is a relationship saver from that perspective. But temperature for women in particular, we're just messier with our hormones, and so temperature is one of those things that throughout life changes a fair amount for females, even more than males. It's not just attached to BMI or the size. There's a metabolism factor. So we get really small athletes. We've done a bunch of tests on women's soccer teams, different professional women's athletes, women's cycle team. They all benefit from it being much cooler, but they're running at a high metabolism, high performance rate. And so you really almost need to think about it in terms of we're all human engines and what that engine is. And most of the time, women like to warm up to fall asleep, but they'll still benefit by sleeping cooler after the fact. And even throughout their menstrual cycle or again, lifetime, that's going to change pretty significantly. They'll run hotter right before their period. So they may actually change more throughout a month or throughout a year than guys do, but that's a hormonal factor.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, I've noticed with Allison, because we haven't set it up here because we're still kind of in flux, but when we were back in LA, we had the 2 units, and then we each 2 OOLERs, right? And then we each on a king bed, we each have our own pad. And I would set mine just cold all the time, but she would put hers on the timer in the app.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like real toasty when she got in bed, and then it would cool off during the night, and then it would wake her up warm, which is a
Mm-hmm.
really cool feature. And I just haven't got that high tech with mine. But now that I'm thinking about it, that would be pretty nice because it kind of sucks waking up when you're cold. You don't want to get up,
Yeah,
you
actually, you
know?
don't want to wake up cold. Actually, you want to wake up warm. And it goes back to we evolved to sleep outside. We evolved not with climate control environments where it's all one temperature. So when we get into the science of why temperature is one of those extreme ways in which you can control your sleep, there is something called the sleep switch. It wasn't discovered by us. It was Clifford Sapir out of Harvard. But there is a sleep switch and it's triggered by a change of temperature. And so it depends on the person. So you may have a spectrum of people, even just putting on warm socks, again, probably more for a female, warming up your toes may be enough to help trigger that, all the way to an extreme where 20 minutes in an ice bath may be part of getting that same sleep profile. Arguably, I'd still prefer a Doc Pro to an ice bath at right before I go to bed. But
Right.
if you are ever totally stuck and you can't fall asleep, you can't do it right before you go to bed. It has to be about an hour. But an hour before you go to bed, a 20-minute ice bath, and you'll get amazing deep sleep and you'll totally crash out. But it's not always fun to spend 20 minutes in an ice bath. It really depends on what you like to do for your ice plunges or if that's something you like to do.
20 minutes is a long time, and I'm a daily ice bather, but that's
That's
a
a
long
long
time.
time.
It's funny though. I've noticed that it's a bit counterintuitive, but if I take a cold shower before bed, you'd think it would wake you up and make you not sleepy, but as long as it's not right before you go to bed, it does actually help you fall asleep. It's really weird.
Yeah, and it'll trigger deep sleep. So it's matching the circadian rhythm. Again, the planet's getting colder, your body's looking to get colder to fall asleep. And in particular, deep sleep really needs your body to be cooler. And that's just the problem of today's mattresses and climate control. You're really not able to get that same cooling that you need to get really great sleep. But then the second half of the night, you really want to warm up. The planet's warming up, and that's actually more for REM sleep. So if you want to be in balance, you really want to warm up. And if you really warm yourself awake, you turn off sleep and you get a burst of cortisol when you wake up. And so you actually are warming yourself up to get started for the day. And you'll actually charge into a workout or sunshine or wherever you're going on your day. You'll actually get a better start. No snoozing. Snoozing's bad.
I know.
But warming you up, you won't go back to snooze if you do a warm awake alarm.
Oh, so that's why I noticed in the app you guys have a button that's warm to wake.
Mm-hmm.
That
And
just,
if you literally you think about being snugly in bed, but if you warm up to wake, you're in the morning, you literally will pop up and you'll feel the difference. It's a burst awake.
wow, that's interesting. Way cooler than an alarm clock too.
Way cooler than an alarm clock.
Yeah, I don't like using alarm clocks. I mean, I've built a job that doesn't require that I have to be anywhere super early. And I'm a night person like you, Todd, and my wife's a morning person. It's so interesting to be with someone like that too, because 8:30, 9 p.m., she's smoked. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's over. There's no more conversations or, it's just like cuddle a bit, whatever, do things, but not talk or do anything active. And then in the morning, like until 10 or 11 a.m., I'm like, don't talk to me. I can't look at my email. I don't look at my phone. I'm just like, wake up, Luke, wake up. It takes me a couple hours to feel like I'm awake. It's so interesting. I've heard you talk about the chronotypes. Could you maybe, beyond just people being in a partnership with someone, but is it true that we really have different sleep styles? And if so, how malleable are they? Because I feel like I've been trying since probably kindergarten to become a morning person and it's never worked, and I'm 51.
Yeah, so it's really the length of your PER3 gene. So it is hardwired in what you are. It'll take a really extreme act. The military works really hard. They literally sleep deprive you for 3 or 4 days. They put you through an extreme change, and even then they may not be successful in totally switching you to a morning person. So you're not alone. That's not an easy switch. You're really driving against what you're genetically predisposed to be. That is your chronotype. It's a quiz you can take, so you don't have to do a fancy DNA test necessarily to get that. It's a pretty standard quiz, and then you're like, yeah, this is me. And it's a spectrum like anything else. That bell curve that everyone looks at. There's an extreme, morning person. They're waking up at 4 a.m. ready to go. They're pretty extreme. Night person, almost all the way to that 3, 4 in the morning. They may stay up and do that. But the rest of us really fit, morning person closer to that. We call it in our app a daylight, but it is that middle of the road that most people can function in, where they're going to bed at 10, 11 at night and waking up, reasonably. That's where the workday comes from. But even still, we're so ingrained to this 8 hours of sleep, all sleeping in what time. Night people, they really love naps. They can do naps way better than morning people. So, there's all these different types and different ways of sleeping. You talked about being in Spain. They often will take a nap around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, have a later dinner. That first sleep, second sleep was very common. Even in like Dickens, you'll see references to it. So it was pretty common to have 2 sleeps. And between 11 and 1 o'clock, a lot of people, mostly night people, were out wandering around, having conversations, having small meals, being social during that time. And we've kind of lost track of the fact that that's just okay. We can sleep however, and we just need to understand who we are, and understanding who you are first is a great way to dive into sleep.
What about the relevance of sleep architecture? So, many of us use the Aura ring and things like that. And I've noticed that this might have something to do with how I'm setting the timing on your technology too. But my deep sleep is usually pretty good, hour and a half to 2 hours on a good night, maybe 2.5 hours, but then on the nights where my deep sleep is really high, then my REM kind of sucks. It's hard for me to kind of get them balanced, and I don't even know what the proper ratio is, but how important is that versus this idea that we have that every person has to get 8 hours sleep? Like we look more, I think, at the total number of hours rather than actually what type of sleep are we getting.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite myths to bust. So 8 hours didn't exist as a thing until the industrial age when factory workers petitioned to get at least 8 hours off. And so we started with this work schedule that we all kind of look at today. Again, we work really hard to get out of having that work schedule and having to wake up for the 8 to 5 grind. But the 8 to 5 grind has existed part of the industrial age, and that's where the 8 hours came from. We did not sleep that way across the planet. There's siestas. Look at our circadian rhythms. They allow for an afternoon nap. They have the same dip right after lunch that they do in the evening. We really are designed to be able to be very flexible on sleep. It's not about the total number of hours, but it does matter what kinds of sleep you have, back to that architecture. So there is deep sleep, REM sleep, and light sleep. Those are kind of just the standard types of sleep. Light sleep is probably the thing we know least about, honestly, from a sleep knowledge perspective, but it tends to be the ribbon of things that go throughout the night. So that one's the one that's probably most easy to like throw it out and say, I don't know what that metric is for light sleep, but it fills in the gaps. We want 2 hours of deep sleep and 2 hours of REM sleep. And oftentimes, if you're cannibalizing your REM sleep, it is because you're getting more deep sleep. Now, if it's in response because you just ran a marathon, then very likely that is going to happen. Your body's going to look for more of that sort of response. If you've just gone through a traumatic event, you may spend more time in REM sleep. You'll see that in extremes in PTSD and depression when there's a high mental state component. REM sleep will cannibalize deep sleep heavily. The good news is sleep is all about your old part of your brainstem. This is not a new thing that we do. The on-off interval of sleep exists all the way down to the smallest organisms on this planet. They are designed to be on and off, and sleep is our off button, and we need to turn off. And that's really the important part. We need to turn off, and we need to get deep sleep, and we need to get REM sleep, but it doesn't really care how you do those intervals.
Yeah, that light sleep that you speak of, that always annoys me. When I look at my sleep score, and it's like 4 hours of light sleep. I'm like, what is that even? Like, what can I do? How much does the timing of, because we're talking about sleep in general, but a lot having to do with temperature because it's so impactful. In terms of the sleep architecture, the REM and deep, what's the relevance of the timing of temperature?
So the timing does help with that on-off switch, and it is relevant for those different types of sleep, of deep sleep and REM sleep. Deep sleep's going to want the first half of the night, and that's really because your core body temperature is dropping 2 degrees temperature, which when we think about 2 degrees, when you're running a fever of 2 degrees, it doesn't feel great. That's significant for your core body to be 2 degrees difference. And so when it's trying to drop that, that's when you're most likely to get deep sleep. Now, just like everything else, once you get into physics and the small particles, it's all about probabilities. So it's not like you're in deep sleep solidly for those 2 hours. You fluctuate in and out of those different sleep states. The speed of the frequency of your brain is going to change throughout that time, but you're more likely to get deep sleep in the first half of the night. As you get older, that may stretch. So it's nice and neat and tidy, like most things when you're 20. But as you get older, it's harder and harder to get deep sleep. And statistically, by the time you're 80, you may get almost no deep sleep. So naturally, without the enhancement of temperature. But again, temperature is talking to the old part of your brain. It bypasses any thinking part. So when you're unconscious, that's how we're able to trigger sleep states without you having to think about it. There's no willpower. There's no remembering. Once you set a schedule, and if you set the schedule to amplify the deep sleep in the first half and amplify REM in the second half, we can deliver an amazing sleep at 65, 80, and it's going to look like a 20-year-old sleep. And that's pretty phenomenal. That's the power of temperature.
So is that the purpose of, on the Sleepme app? I downloaded the new app last night and I was playing around with that. And I think I scheduled things backwards from what you just said, which is probably why I was so freezing. So I had mine at, I think at 2:30 a.m. to go down to 65. And that's probably when I woke up like, what is happening? I'm in an igloo here in the tundra. the purpose of the scheduling in the app so that you can kind of, start to play with that
Exactly.
and track
Yeah.
your sleep and find the sweet spot to get your deep earlier and then warm up a little to go into REM later in the night.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and we also find we have like shift workers. We have people that have weird schedules that aren't always able to back to the. It doesn't have to be from 10 to 6 that you sleep. Using temperature as a way you can hack your sleep to sort of amplify that no matter when you go to sleep. Obviously, ideally, matching it to your chronotype is going to help you get there faster, and it's a way to reset that. But it really doesn't matter. It can trick that brain into saying yes, it's time to get deep sleep.
Cool. Wow. So fun. Let's see here. Okay, then in terms of sleep tracking, what have you guys found to be the most accurate? There's a Whoop thing or something. I don't have that. I've just had the Aura Ring forever, and I mean,
Yeah.
I
So we're launching our own sleep tracking
you don't say.
later this year. Yes. we are.
Really? So screw Aura Ring. Those other ones,
Yeah.
they all suck. No.
No.
Well,
No, I'm just
So
kidding. I'm
we
just
can tell
kidding.
you what's different about them
Yeah.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
a couple things. I mean, I think we look at sleep tracking right now. One of the biggest problems with sleep trackers is that they struggle to bring causality to. It's a measuring stick, right? So you're getting a measuring stick, you're getting biofeedback, but it's not always actionable information, or you don't really know what to do or what's causing, say, a bad sleep outcome. And so, our vision is to connect the sleep state, which we're going to do in real time, and feel that be able to feed real time to be able to set and recommend temperatures. So when you're able to connect the two systems, this is coming on board like right around Labor Day. So kind of we're throwing it out there that this is coming. It's not available now, but the vision is that this will actually be able to connect the two systems. So if you have real time sleep tracking and hardware with a real time intervention, it can automatically change the temperature with an N of 1. So it'll determine Luke Story's
it'll
ideal
calibrate to you.
temperature. It'll calibrate to you. And we'll actually have a training mode because we know EMF is really important to you and a lot of people in your audience. It has a training mode, so you can basically have it train on your unique data set and then turn off and live in airplane mode, and then you can retrain it over time. But we have done a lot of research on the other sleep tracking systems. And Aura, we love the Aura guys. Tara and I both wear Aura rings, but they really struggle with the full 360 view. They can't tell you exactly when you go to bed. They can tell when you're asleep in general, and they really struggle between deep sleep and REM sleep. So because
The sleep stages accuracy is really where all sleep trackers fail. Across the board, if you hit them up on the accuracy of sleep states, it's going to be 40 to 60% versus your HRV resting heart rate. That's where they really rock it. It's not real time, and why real time is important. All of them have a battery life. You have to wear them while you're sleeping. This exists in the bed. It doesn't have a battery life, so it doesn't have to have a look back. In real time, sleep data is really heavy on the amount of data burn, and so calculating that in real time is crazy. If you're a math person, it's crazy calculations. It's really fun if you're a math person. There's some fun part in it, but there's no look back. So in the morning when you wake up, like, crap, I sucked last night, what happened? That doesn't happen if it's in real time, and we're adjusting while you're unconscious, while you're asleep, to sort of mitigate those changes and to be able to have that happen automatically for you. That's the goal. You want to show up in bed and have your bed work for you, and that's really the goal with the sleep tracker for us.
And really foundational to patents that we started filing 5 years ago. In 2017, we started filing patents about your bed at home at night being your space to heal. So how can we implement different technologies over time using this real-time sleep tracker so that we can add PMF treatment, we can add sound therapy, light therapy, doing the right thing at the right time when you're already unconscious, you're predisposed to heal at night. So why is that the dumbest space in our 24-hour day? It's because the technology didn't advance to the point where we could get a feedback loop to know the dosage and the right interventions that would be right things for the right people at the right time. So that's all something we've designed this sleep tracker, this real-time sleep tracker, to be available in open architecture for other hardware companies to connect to.
Oh,
So
no way.
our vision is not like we need to build it all for it to be great stuff. There's tons of great tech out there, lots of great entrepreneurs working on amazing things. We want our sleep tracker to be an empowerment tool to help other people get better faster. And we think with an open ecosystem and architecture that allows other hardware to be able to leverage our millions of dollars of investment in the space, like that's just going to make a better outcome for everybody.
Oh, that's super, super cool. Yeah, I use a device called the Happy. You guys know
Yeah.
the little ring?
Yeah, they're going to be one of our first platform partners for that
Oh,
reason.
cool. Yeah, I
Again,
was
they
like,
need
oh,
sleep
that
tracking information that interacts with theirs,
would be
and
so
so
cool.
that's where we can share device control. Again, as we architected that
Wow.
platform, so that's an easy pairing.
That's so cool. Yeah, that is actually, I don't use it every night just because I don't know that I want something, emitting a field on my brain every night. But on nights that I really need sleep, I'll put it on its deep sleep setting for
Yeah.
8 hours and put it under my pillow. And my deep sleep scores are always off the charts on those nights. I mean, it totally works.
Yep. In
Like
fact, we're working on
100%.
a Sleepme recipe that we're working on right now with
Oh,
Happy.
cool.
So we'll let
Awesome.
kind of we're coordinating timing and how that's going to be all
Yeah.
launched, and without putting the cart before the horse. But it's definitely, we've got an open collaboration. Super excited about their tech and their team. We work really well together. We're excited about doing lots of things
Yeah, they're
together.
great people. I've
Yeah.
interviewed Scott, their CEO, great guy, doing good things in the world. I love it when you guys know each other,
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
so I'm like, oh man, if this thing connected with this thing, it would
Yeah.
be so awesome. And there you go, you did it.
We work with all kinds of great people, and I think that's that's just a philosophy. Frankly, I think it really helps Tara and I work well together as well as work with other people. Of like, it starts with like high ambition with high humility. Like we just want to do the right stuff and do the right stuff the right way, and work with great people, and it delivers better outcomes for everybody. So yeah, it's a fun moment in time. We've got a lot of amazing things in flight. In fact, some of the app stuff that Tara's working on, really cool stuff with where we're trying to get our app. So when you are traveling, or if you just, a lot of people feel like they suck at sleep. Like, man, I've tried everything, nothing really works for me. I'm just not good at sleep. I don't sleep well. And Tara's got a kind of a whole system built out to be able to meet people where they are in sleep and give them some wins so they can start figuring out a way to help themselves sleep better. Because it's not the same 5 tips that are going to work for most people, right? Like back to get 8 hours, stop drinking caffeine at 2. Well, it's based on your chronotype, and it's like you'd never tell someone go eat 2 pounds of food and you'll be healthy. Like, well, that's the same as the 8 hours of sleep, right? So, yeah, we've got some really cool stuff that's coming with the app and how we're looking to change sleep for people that aren't getting good quality sleep.
With the sleep tracker that you're developing, is that something that's like underneath you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sensors. We've got medical grade sensors, so it's a sensor array. We've benchmarked our algorithms. A company out of Finland called VTT. We've benchmarked. The good news about Finland is they have open healthcare, and so there's access to lots of nights of sleep data in order to be able to benchmark that. So we spent a lot of time getting that algorithm just right in order to be able to get to that higher accuracy on sleep states, which is so important to us.
Cool. There's another thing with tracking sleep that is worth mentioning. It might be useful to people. Having had the Aura Ring for a long time, I got in the habit of, because I put on airplane mode because I don't want the Bluetooth when I'm sleeping, and then right when I wake up, I go look at the app and like sync it and like, oh man, I only got X amount of RAM deep, and then I find myself being more tired that day. It's like a psychosomatic nocebo kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, I started to realize I think I'm screwing myself because the power of belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now I don't, every once in a while, I'll be curious. Like last night, I looked because
Mm-hmm.
I tried out a new technology and I wanted to see what happened. But now I kind of I'll check once a week and just review the week and be like, Tuesday night sucked. What happened? Oh, yeah, I ate a pint of ice cream at 1 a.m. and climbed in bed.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But how much
We
do you,
can fix that with the Dock Pro, by the way, just so
oh,
you
really?
know. And there is the Staples Easy Button equivalent is coming on that because we can mitigate the difference of that ice cream. So if you are bad, because sleep is an ultimate party pooper, right? Like who wants to like always go to bed at the same time? It does love ritual, it does love habit, but if you increase your metabolism with ice cream or drinking late, you just adjust your temperature down a little bit, and you can mitigate almost all the impact of that. So you
Yes.
can guilt-free enjoy your ice cream. just tap your schedule down, but we'll have an
Okay.
automatic adjustment in the schedule that's coming out in an app crap release by summer.
Wednesday nights, ice cream night. That's pretty cool. How much do you guys think the psychosomatic, power of belief affects how tired we are when it comes to tracking?
It is absolutely why I tell a lot of people don't track your sleep unless you're going to use the data. To your point, I'm trying a new technology. I'm going to try a new supplement. I'm going to, increase my magnesium intake for the next 2 weeks. So I'm going to really try tracking that. I'm going to try this new supplement. I'm going to do some new exercise. Then you should track your sleep. But otherwise, it actually is very destructive. Study after study is showing that it's bad news in the morning. Who wants to get bad news to start your day? It actually is very destructive to your hormones, all your good hormones. The last thing we don't get dopamine in the morning if we look and we're like, oh crap. You feel more tired because you don't have the same rush of, oh wow, that was great. I'm amazing. And your brain is giving you a feedback loop for that. So there's a chemical response to getting bad news.
Well, yeah.
And if you feed off of that, you're going to be tired.
And if you're an A-type
Right.
like Tara and you wake up and the first thing you see is a 70 or an 80 or an 82, it's not 100. So it starts with number one, you're never perfect,
Right.
which unfortunately from a scoring standpoint, it's we're all unique. We're unique we're total unique beings. Why is there a 1 to 100 score? The whole approach to 1 to 100 means number one, you're never perfect. And if you are, it's like a unicorn sleep, right? You're probably in bed for 10 and a half hours and whatever.
You
But
broke
it's
their
not set up-
algorithm. Yeah.
Not set up to maximize you feeling great and that gratitude and that moment of self-love in the morning of I feel great. I am going to have my best day. And you look at the number, you're like, damn it, I already started by screwing up my night last night. It's definitely not the best way to start your day.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing about it too is when I go back and look at the prior week, say my score, I'm checking on Saturday, my score this Tuesday past was really shitty. And I think back, I was like, I had a great day that day. I felt great. I had tons of energy, but had I looked at it, I'd be like, oh, today's going to be a struggle. I mean, sometimes you sleep less or your sleep architecture is not so hot and you end up, for whatever reason, you just feel on point anyway, so it's
sleep hides a lot of things. So sleep is a look back, and that's the other complexity with sleep tracking is that you'll see it when you're starting to not feel well. You can see that in your aura scores. A lot of them were benchmarking it for getting COVID. Your temperature would change, your HRV scores will crash. All of those will happen when you're starting to get sick. So, but you won't see the symptoms manifested necessarily in your body. And even if your body's fighting something and they fought it off, but you didn't really register that you got sick from it, all of those things can happen in your sleep. And it does show up in your sleep scores, but it doesn't mean necessarily, like you said, that you had a bad day. It just means your body was doing something in the background, taking care of you, and good for it. Glad it was doing
Right.
that. But that doesn't mean you failed at sleep. It just means your body was working really hard to heal your body during that time.
Well, and the other
Good
thing that
point, good
happens
point.
with really good sleep, and now that you're aware of it and you're listening to yourself rather than just looking at a measuring stick, is you're increasing your sleep elasticity. So we're working with 63 pro sports organizations right now. Pretty much every type, whether it's NBA or NLB or hockey or pretty much every league in some capacity. And what we're doing with these folks traveling is, if they can sleep really, really well at home, when they travel, they can overcome sleep adversity better. And so we're trying to get them set up with road kits and other things, but it lends itself to the sleep elasticity. If in general you sleep really well at home, one bad sleep is have a much lower effect than if you get mediocre sleep and you have a bad sleep and it's man, you're wrecked. But you can kind of skip over a night of bad sleep. It wasn't that big of a deal. You just kind of glossed over it because you had enough built up sleep elasticity that it didn't have the same impact. And that happens. We've seen it on even measuring someone that hadn't slept with our technology for a while, and they've slept on it for maybe a couple weeks, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then they go travel. Their travel nights are better night's sleep even without the technology if it's over a relatively short duration.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's kind of neat.
What about speaking of travel, is there a difference between jet lag and just travel fatigue? I feel like I get travel fatigue a lot, but even if I'm not changing time zones, that dramatically, I'll still get smoked just from the travel itself. And I'm like, well, what is that then? Is it travel fatigue?
Well, there's a ton of EMFs. If you look from a physics perspective, your airplanes are EMF generating machines. So as soon as you get on an airplane, the air's bad, the EMFs are bad. You're basically stressing your body out. That's what EMFs do. They put your body in a stress state because it's taking an impact. Even though we can't see it, as you know, it's still having an impact. But the travel life, moving around, all of that does wear, and it creates a stress response in our body. And when we get stressed out, that response is there for a reason. It was designed if an arm got ripped off by a lion, we could respond to it, which is good. But it's exhausting, right? It puts our body in a state where it's always on because it's ready for whatever that next thing is. And when we're traveling, we're in an always on kind of state. So beyond the jet lag, beyond the time change, which can mess your sleep up and hurt that, there's an always on that needs to get turned off as well. So it's really important to monitor stress. When in doubt, take an extra minute, at least in the bathroom, do a breathing technique. That's where some of the meditations that you talk about, just take a minute. And even if you can dump the cortisol for a minute, you'll actually get back a little bit of that fatigue feeling. But it's just because we're always on. There's a state of stress. Even if it's not seeming to be stressful, it can actually still be creating your body, a stress response in your body. And if it's in a stress response the whole time you're traveling, yeah, it's going to wear you out.
Yeah, especially these days, traveling is weirder than ever.
Yeah.
It's like you're in a low oxygen environment already in a plane, and they're like, let's make it lower and breathe some PCBs or whatever. Whatever.
Yep. Let's do everything wrong.
Let's inhale flame retardants or graphene oxide or whatever the hell is in those things. Yeah, that's a really good point. The nervous system stress. I have gotten in the habit over the years to pretty much entire flight. I used to try and work. I bring my laptop, and it's just like that would increase the level of exhaustion upon arrival. Now I pretty much meditate the whole time. I'll listen to the new calm tracks or Joe Dispenza meditation. I mean, I'll be over there 3 or 4 hours meditating, on long flights. Everyone else is like up eating snacks. I have my eye mask on, earplugs in, headphones on, just full disconnection from the entire experience. And I find that to help a lot.
Yep. So you're not hitting that stress response.
Yeah, I just rest as much as possible on the plane.
Yeah, because the entire experience is stressful. So anything you can do to take that away.
What about sleep supplements? I've gone through different things over the years. Of course, many people are familiar with melatonin. I just got a new sleep supplement from Ben Greenfield's company, Keon, and it's really good. It's got tryptophan and a really good bioavailable GABA and one other thing that I forget. And if I take 3 of those, like an hour before I want to go to sleep, like I am done. I'm sleeping.
Yeah, tryptophan is no joke. It is a really great. So melatonin is naturally released in your body. So it's part of that sleep switch. So if you flip your sleep switch with temperature or naturally, dimming light, those environmental triggers, you will actually get a release of melatonin naturally. And so if you treat melatonin as a short-term tool, so you want to treat that of like, I'm not going to do a hormone replacement equivalent. It's a low-level hormone, but it's still replacing that. Over time isn't good for you. So you want to make sure you're using it as a tool. But things like tryptophan, which occurs naturally in foods, you can use those different factors and they will enhance your sleep. It's really powerful. Again, we've used those over centuries without realizing it. And
eat a bunch of turkey.
Yeah, and low glycemic snacks. Sleeping is still a fasting state. So again, anything that's feeding our brain while we're trying to do all that recovery sleep stuff is good for us.
What about magnesium? Do either of you ever play with that?
Oh, Tara's got a great story on magnesium.
Yeah,
why it doesn't work for so many people.
Well, and most people really are short on magnesium. Most people do not hydrate well. All water is not created the same as we know, but it's really important to understand bioavailability. And you kind of hinted at that in your last statement, and that's really important. A lot of people drink it with something acidic, which immediately reduces its bioavailability. They haven't matched or taken the time. There's so many different combinations, and some combination of magnesium is likely to work better for you. There's a lot of different profiles to kind of consider when what type of pairing you want with that magnesium. And if you eat processed foods, that's going to also hurt your bioavailability when it comes to magnesium as well. Potassium and magnesium, that's one of the reasons why we're so chronically short of it in a U.S. society, is all that processed food.
Well, hopefully people listening to this show aren't eating
Yeah,
processed food.
they're probably saying amen, but yeah, that is a big factor in that
Someone might
magnesium.
share it with their auntie or uncle,
If they want a good excuse to say, don't eat, Hormel ham or something.
I have found magnesium helpful. There's one of our sponsors is Magnesium Breakthrough. I'm sure the audience hears me talk about it all the time, and they have a great product. It's got 7 forms of magnesium. So you go to the health food store and it's like 3 in 8, this in 8, it's like, how do you know? So they're like, cool, we'll just pack them all in one. Those work really well to help sleep. And another company, Upgraded Formulas, the guy, Barton Scott, that I interviewed about minerals, he found a way to take, it's only one type of magnesium, but he shrunk the molecules super tiny, way smaller than the cells, so you absorb the hell out of it. And I'll sometimes take both just because why not?
Yeah.
And the Ben Green, the Keon sleep pills, and those 2 magnesiums, like recipe. Because I've tried a lot of stuff, and it's like, I don't really notice, but that's pretty much guaranteed to help me.
Yeah, magnesium is involved in that transportation of melatonin and in your neurons themselves. So if you don't have a lot of magnesium, you're not going to get great sleep. It's just, you just need that mineral. And where we evolved from, we had a lot of availability to those minerals that has dropped off. Again, back to that processed food comment. But eating more naturally, you're going to get better minerals. Your leafy greens are going to have more in them if they're more natural, if they're not chemically modified or messed with too much. All of those are going to lose their minerals, and that's important. It's just how we evolved to have that as a transportation mechanism. And if we don't have it, our cells don't work the same way.
That's super cool. So magnesium helps utilize the melatonin that your brain's making.
It's part of the chemical. Yeah, part of the chemicals. Part of the chemicals you need. Minerals are the base. If you don't have good minerals in your system, you're going to really struggle on most chemical reactions in your body.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I don't know how I missed them. I mean, I've always been a little aware of minerals, but lately it's just they're hitting me in the face. I'm just like hearing about them everywhere and really excited to start learning more.
We just spend more time at the dirt. We evolved to love on dirt. And just even contact, I think that's why it's not really even about grounding, but I love putting my hands in the dirt. I love growing stuff, and half of it I think is just getting my hands in with dirt.
Yeah,
feels good.
I agree. Okay, what about light? I know I have this company, Gilded. I sell, shameless plug, blue blocking glasses, gilded by lukestory.com. I've been wearing blue blockers for many years, and there are some great brands out there, but I wanted to make some that looked really cool and also blocked the correct spectrum of light. And so I did that, and I wear them. Also use these Lumi sleep bulbs in the house by Blue Blocks. Those are great. They don't flicker. They're just a red LED light. And so I kind of have a set of daytime bulbs that are brighter and more white, aka blue, and then a set of orange or red bulbs, and then I wear my glasses. Dealing with the light temperature has helped my sleep a lot, so I'm convinced. But do you guys have anything to add to?
No, I think you pointed it out on daylight bulbs versus blue light blockers. I think back to sleep tracking, the one thing people do wrong is you need light to turn off sleep, to be in daylight mode. And so don't wear them too early. Wear them in the evening when you're trying to dim light. Make sure you still get enough daylight. If you're not going outside for work or taking walks or being outside, then making sure you get enough light on the first half of the day. Usually by 9 a.m., you want to make sure you have a good dose of light, because that also helps that sleep drive. And it's really important to make sure you get enough light. So before you think about blocking it, make sure you get enough, and then block it, in the evening when you don't want it. So just make sure you're not sort of putting those glasses on. I've seen people on a 10 o'clock call and where you're like, I'm sure those glasses are cool, but actually wearing them now at 10 a.m. is probably not when you need to wear those. And so that's my first, they're amazing, but the number of people that do it wrong,
and different chronotypes are more sensitive to light. So I think if you're an early riser, you're probably more sensitive to light spectrums later in the day than you or us being.
Or you'll have to wear your blue light blockers earlier. Yeah. So you may be around 6 o'clock if you're a super morning person that you're going to put those on. But as a night person, you may not want to put them on. You're still highly functioning daylight at 6 o'clock.
It's funny. They actually, when you put on the right red ones, because we have the yellow ones for like computer use and stuff during the day, and then the red ones, but they make you sleepy. I mean, you start making melatonin, because I wear them out sometimes to events and things like that, and then I notice like on those nights I'll be much sleepier when I drive home. Yep. I like it because then I'm not too amped up.
Yeah, it does help with being amped up. Like I wore them. We did a sleep challenge in the evening in September, and I wore them every night on Zoom to try to not be as amped up at the end of it. So it's really helpful.
With the morning light, you're talking about getting outdoors, right?
Ideally, ideally, but again, don't wear your glasses like when you're outside first thing in the morning. Enjoy it. Get the vitamin D, be outside, get sunlight. Certainly morning people should by 9 a.m. be outside if they can, even if it's cloudy out like it is today. Get outside because you're still going to get some of that through.
This is one of the most effective ways I've found to get on a better sleep schedule. If I find myself habituating and I'm going to bed at midnight or 1, and even if I like it, the rest of the world is not doing that, so it screws up my next day. When I need to switch them around, I'll go and do sun gazing, like watch the sunrise. Unfortunately, in Texas, I'm learning it's quite cloudy often, so I don't get the sun much, but even getting out in that bright light. But if I catch a sunrise, like when it's coming up, the first 15 minutes, I'll get tired that night way faster. It's crazy.
Because you start the clock. Because the moment you turn off sleep, and that's why turning it off is as important as turning it on. It really helps create that off. You don't want to be in limbo. The mechanism of it literally is an empty balloon to a full balloon. We want to start filling our balloon towards sleep the moment we turn it off. And if it stays in limbo, that's really where it makes it much harder to go to sleep.
Right. And then what about light in the room? Just not even blue light, but just while you're sleeping, how important is it that the room is pitch black?
It's still a spectrum. So it's back to that bell curve. There's going to be people like I'm in a hotel right now, and there's one little yellow light I was like staring at last night going, I think I'm going to kill it. I'm going to just like pull it. If I had a BB gun, I'd be shooting that light and taking it out because it's in the ceiling staring at me. I'm like, this is terrible. Why do they do that in hotel rooms? I don't know. I'm highly sensitive. I don't think it affects Todd nearly as much as it does me, back to that chronotype part. And then I'm just more sensitive probably to light than he is. And so there is a spectrum of those of us that, hate those little blinking yellow lights in the smoke detector, whatever. I was ready to do something horrible to it
with tape to cover them
up.
And
we have a travel kit with stickers, which I did not remember this time. So
some hotel rooms, I mean, all those little indicator lights, you don't realize it. And you turn, even if you have blackout curtains, you turn the lights off, and it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 5 little green or blue lights.
Yeah.
And they emit, to me, I must be sensitive, a lot of light. Like it annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, know your tools, right? And manage them. So bring tape.
We put that in the sweep kits even for the travel teams and things like that. Yeah, we have we have curtain clips and stickers and things like that. Because again, how can you make curtains at even a nice hotel that don't close? Like why can't they stay closed? So we literally have like little clips.
Little binder clips?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys have the same travel kit that I do. That's
really cool. We designed it for MLB teams that were traveling based on their travel schedule, and like you can find them on chilisleep.com right now too. The travel kit. It's like about $120 or something.
Oh, cool.
But it's like high quality earplugs, stickers. So blue light blocking stickers. You can put on all the electronics in the room. It's got the curtain clips. It's got, not your blue light blocking glasses, but a real high quality blue light blocking glasses.
I think we need to talk. After the podcast, we'll figure that out.
But yeah, I mean, it's like all the essentials to like manage the things that are most greatest sensitivities for the individual.
That's super smart. Speaking of which, I forgot to announce that all people, let's call all humans guys, can catch the show notes for this at lukestory.com/sleep. So we've been talking about all these different supplements and things and all your products. You can find them there. Also, I don't know if I have this exactly right, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have a discount from you guys on the Doc Pro the code Luke10, 10% off. Is that real?
Check show notes. Is the right answer.
Okay.
But discounts are not readily available for Doc Pro, so that's really a special one. So definitely.
Yeah, because it's brand new, so getting a discount on it is a good deal.
You don't need to put it on a discount on it. People want it. And then I had another one, Luke 22, for other stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that would be for like the OOLER and
Okay.
the Cube.
Does that
exactly.
count for accessories and those
You
kind
know,
of
great
things?
question. We
Okay.
we
Yeah.
will make sure there's some discount for
Thank
your
you.
audience
Yeah.
and all the Luke Story fans out
I
there to
love
make
it.
sure they
'Cause
get what they need.
It's like when you have someone on and they have a cool product. I mean, I'm happy to promote and everyone makes money and it's all good. It's good commerce, but the audience I know sometimes listens is like, duh, I want that thing and I can't afford it. So any little bit helps. So don't worry about the codes, guys. Just go to lukestory.com/sleep and you'll find everything there.
I will say from an affordability perspective, especially in Texas, but air conditioning and the cost
Oh.
of all of that, we do find that you get your energy back pretty quickly, back to, the wattage we're running on, what we're able to achieve from cooling. You're able to increase your air conditioning, that thermostat for your house significantly if you're in bed, whether it's 8 hours or whatever we've decided is the right number. There is a savings part to just
Oh my
managing that.
God.
We've got some fun study actually in the UK happening right now that will kind of prove that out in a sort of more
Oh, cool.
academic spot, but it is
So,
definitely helpful that way.
like cooling your bed instead of running an
Yeah.
HVAC in your whole 3,000 square foot house or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, when I was in LA, I mean, in the summer, I did have to put the AC on a little bit too. I'd set it to 72
and with the
or
OOLER,
something.
you would, but with the Dock
No.
Pro, like
Based on last night, I don't think you could have. It could be 110 degrees in your room, and like you're still going to be freezing. But that said, even with that, my bill was way less than
Mhm.
if I didn't have a cold
right.
bed. I mean, if you keep your
Yeah.
place at 67 and it's like, 98 degrees outside
For
wherever
sure.
you are, I mean, you're gonna.
Well,
I don't
think
remember
about-
what my bills were. I think they were like $750 every 2 months, like crazy
Oh,
amount
yeah.
of money.
Well, think
Mhm.
about the only time you actually feel like we need air conditioning is at night to sleep.
Yeah.
But if you're like sleeping in a cool bed, like it totally de-risks the air conditioning proposition. Because like, if you're spending time outside, especially if you're doing something fun and outdoorsy, then like you don't really care. It doesn't matter if it's 80, 90 degrees. It could be 100 degrees. If you're hydrated right. But by the time you go home, you're like, all right, now I want a cool room because I want to get ready for sleep. That's really it's all about the sleep to get the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
There's some pleasantries about, okay, let's not cook dinner. And if it's 90 degrees in the kitchen, that would be not awesome. But,
Yeah.
so there's some conveniences, but it's really required to get sleep.
Well,
Otherwise,
the thing
you're
about the
roast.
AC too, just in terms of wasting energy and money, unless you have like a wall or window unit in your bedroom, if you have a whole house HVAC system, that's always annoyed me that like I'm wasting energy and money cooling the entire house. I literally only need the bedroom cold. I'm sleeping.
Yeah, you're not moving
know?
around. You're not doing
No,
anything.
it's super. I don't know. I just don't like wasting stuff. I'm like OCD about it, so that annoys me about having like a whole house thing. So
And the
that
Dock Pro
that is a
has the
benefit.
capacity to do it. So even in the UK, only 1% of homes have air conditioning. And unfortunately, with global warming, they're having more heat waves. They really there's no options to not have it. And so that's where it's benchmark Australia, a lot of those, but there's a lot of places even in the US that, normally wouldn't need it. You want to sleep with the windows open. Even North Carolina right now, it's wonderful there, but I still want it cold enough at night. So
Yeah.
I don't need to have air conditioning on much later into the season. You just save time without having that on all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Also, in terms of spending money on stuff like this, because I know, like I said, a lot of people probably listen to the show and they're like, "Oh, I can't afford all this stuff." I'm like, I know I talk about all this cool shit all the time. Some of it's expensive. I don't think your technology is a few $100s, like whatever. Eat out less for a couple months, like turn off your AC at night. You just save that money. But the other thing is, I often for myself quantify things in terms of my performance,
Yeah.
right? Like if I'm going to spend money on something, is it going to help me make more money because my performance is higher? And so to me, like almost beyond anything else that I do, if something helps my sleep, I'm going to make more money because I'm going to have more energy and just be more focused. So in terms of like the categories of your like biohacking or health to invest in, I think sleep's probably the best one.
Yeah, we have that
So
conversation.
it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, we have that conversation with athletes all the time. So, performance athletes, you figure they only, depending on the sport, they may only have a few years to make all of their money in the sport or be active. Their cognitive ability is better with sleep. So, we're able to show if you can get to that 2 hours of deep sleep, their reaction time for baseball, because we do a lot of coaching with baseball, is going to be faster. And it's in that millisecond response. It's not in the broad brush response, but your ability to respond in a millisecond, that firing of your brain, it's actually 23% different. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're making a millisecond decision, that is a big difference of someone that slept well and didn't. And so sleep also over your lifetime, we think about entire retirement and investing for retirement and saving. We talk about that with our younger athletes. You really when you sleep, you're saving for your health span. You're saving for that future. If you don't get deep sleep, you don't file memories. You build up protein in your brain, not good protein, the tau proteins that are attached to Alzheimer's. That doesn't get clean. So in deep sleep, your spinal fluid actually washes your brain because your brain is separate from the rest of your body, and how its cleanliness is managed is different. And it only happens during deep sleep. So one for one, if you're not getting deep sleep, if you're not getting good sleep, your chances for all of those cognitive loss, all that bad mindful stuff that we want to have the rest of our lives. We don't want to not remember our husband or our kids. We're investing in that when we invest in sleep. And when we make sure we get deep sleep, whether you buy our product or not, sleep is absolutely the one thing to invest in, to take time on, to make sure you're measuring over the course of your life, because that will make a difference in the end.
You reminded me of something. My dad's mom, she lived to be 99.
Wow.
And my whole, I don't know, in my childhood, but definitely in my adolescence and into my 20s, she would talk to me constantly about how important sleep was. Granted, this is a time when I'm like playing in a rock and roll band, doing tons of drugs, living in Hollywood. I mean, many nights over the course of a few years, I literally didn't sleep at all, let alone deep or REM. And I always thought, that's nice. I love my grandma. Like, that's cute, but she was always hammering on that. And then, now I'm a little longer in the tooth and I'm like, oh, I get it. Right. It's like,
exactly.
if I could only go back to my 20s and listen to my grandma. God bless you, grandma. Thank you for trying to warn me wherever you are. But yeah, it's, and especially as you get older too.
Mhm.
Like when I was younger, I was partying, little maniac. I didn't really notice. But now, like, wow, my performance is,
Yep.
Noticeably less if I don't get good sleep. We touched on EMF. Let's talk about that because I appreciate that you guys have been mindful about that. There's a lot of really great things that people come up with, inventions, technologies, etc. And they have benefits, but then especially in the kind of biohacking space, there's a lot of techie stuff that gets plugged in and has, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connectivity. A lot of things that people send me or pitch me on to, talk about on the show or to put on my website. I can't do it because it's EMF. And so if I don't want it around me, I can't, give people a platform or promote something, especially because my audience knows I'm so anti-EMF and so savvy about it, right? I mean, I have an online course about EMF. It's like 6-7 hours, I think, at this point of content. So you guys have done a couple cool things. Because I get asked about your products too from people that are like, yeah, what about the EMF? So let's demystify some of that. What I've noticed is, you have a grounded power cable, which is
Yep.
super cool. So there's
Yep.
not going to be an electric field coming off the actual cable that plugs it in the wall. It's going to be a lower electric field on the actual motorized part.
Yep.
There will inherently be, and correct me if I'm wrong anywhere along the line, with anything that plugs into a wall that has a motor, there's going to be a magnetic field that emanates from it. And I've tested the OOLER, and I think it went out about 2 feet or something like that. So I just put it 2 feet away from the bed, and there's no magnetic field. Same with the electric field, because this doesn't have to go under your bed.
That's right.
And then you've got the RF fields, which would be the connectivity to the app of the Bluetooth and or Wi-Fi. So I noticed last night when I plugged in the Dock Pro, I had to connect it to the Wi-Fi in the house. And I was like, oh, did these guys screw this up? We talked about this. And then it just wanted to do that so I could connect it. And then you just disconnect it and it goes on airplane mode. And now that unit I use the app to set all the settings I want, but then it goes airplane. And then so I can't now be in bed, which I would have done last night. when I woke up cold, I'm like, ah, shit, I turned off the EMF, so now I can't control it from the app. I would have to get up, turn on the Bluetooth,
And
and
that's
make
why we
settings.
put control on the unit so
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
again, you're stuck. You're like, okay, I've disconnected it. You can still up and down, on and off, like on there. But yeah, those advanced features you can on and off, in your app and make those choices. We're all about those consumers getting a chance to choose how they interact with our product and keep all EMFs out of the bed surface.
Yeah, we
Yes.
even went to the next step. Actually,
Yeah, so what did I miss? This is what I noticed.
Yeah,
but
so we actually, inside our water flow path, because all this is like heating and cooling using water. And we actually went so far in the water flow path to add an extra grounding lead from the grounding electrical cord to the grounding flow path of the water. So we're actually grounding the water as it's circulating
oh,
underneath
no
you.
way.
So
Cool.
we haven't gone to the point where we've measured like the grounding effect of the
Right.
water flowing beneath you.
Like the DC
But
current.
we
Yeah.
are like the whole time that water is flowing beneath you, we're actually grounding the flow path of that water. Like we are like committed to give the best EMF free experience we can deliver. And even doing things that are invisible, we never talk about, but like it's in our engineering approach to solve these problems of like, how do we continue to evolve the product and what it does for people with minimizing any, EMF to the greatest extent we can.
Yeah, we have a
So
fabulous,
cool.
like sci-fi-ish kind of room. It's really like when you think of being covered in tinfoil. So we've literally like, in order to measure like every little inch of it, we've actually created a room where, your cell phone's dead. There's
Oh,
nothing
you made
going,
like a Faraday room?
Yep.
whole Faraday room.
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Metal
So
floor, metal walls, metal ceiling,
Really?
yeah,
completely
and then
insulated.
it has
No,
a tiny
no
hole
window.
so we can run electricity and then put it in there and then do measurements and figure that out.
Wow.
But yeah, we've taken it down to like dial it down to millivolts and being able to
Oh,
really look at
man.
that.
Thank you so much for doing that. And another thing, just to clarify for people, I think you described how it works with the mesh and these, what used to be these veins of water. I think some people think, because I've gotten questions on this, that there's like electric wires going
Yeah.
into the pad, like an electric blanket. I'm
Oh
like, no,
God,
no,
no.
there's no like. By the way, if anyone listening, if you use an electric blanket, please, for the love of God, stop. Those things are so
Yeah.
bad for you.
It's
So
really
either
awful.
either stop using an electric blanket or just commit and get a sleeping bag and sleep under power lines because it's basically the same. So like whichever one you want to do, either keep using an electric blanket or sleep under power lines because and so we don't often talk about this, but the Chilipad also heats.
I was
So
just
like
gonna
you
say
don't
that.
have to you don't have to sleep on an electric blanket
was-
if you're chronically cold and you have maybe low metabolism or you just maybe as you
Or
get
if you
older,
just feel
you're-
like you want cancer, like
Right.
it's like
Right.
it is
No,
like a
it's-
cancer making thing. Those
No, but
like,
what
ugh.
we've designed, and I think that we've got another competitor out there that's out there promoting product, and some of the biohackers are talking about their product, and competition does make you better sometimes. But we work so hard to have on-device controls, to have an EMF-free experience with both airplane mode. No one is required to have any electrical anything in the bed or the mattress topper. We didn't really get into the serviceability, but our thing is really easy to take off the bed and wash. I think you set it up last
Yeah.
night without instructions.
Yeah.
Our whole commitment is like making usable product. Hey, we know we're not perfect. Our people have had issues with their systems, or maybe the pump is worn out over a period of time. We stand behind our stuff. We're always making things better, and this is definitely the best.
But we won't
system
put
we've ever made.
EMFs in your bed.
Right.
Yeah, I like I like that policy. I talked to that company 8 Sleep maybe a year ago or something like that. And did they make a whole mattress
They
that's
do.
like temperature controlled?
They do.
And I thought it was a cool idea, but then we went, and this is, I'm not trying to shit on them. I'm sure there's benefits to controlling the temperature even with that mattress that would outweigh some of the EMF exposure. It's probably a net positive, so good for them. But I'm just such an EMF freak. I elected at that time not to work with them because it would just go against my own kind of brand,
Yep.
But I was like, oh, this is exciting. This looks cool, because I'm not like a competitive person. I don't think because I like what you guys do, I can't like anything else. It's like I have 2 different saunas. They both have different benefits, But anyway, I talked to them or got an email. I was like, what's the deal with the EMF? Can you turn the whole thing off and just have it be cold? And they're like, well, no, but it's a really low RF reading. how the thing connects to the motherboard or whatever, and you can't turn it off and have it be functional. It's a safe level, and it might be low, and maybe it is safe to some people, but I just couldn't. I don't want any. Safe to me is 0. You know,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
already
it is, it'll measure about a vacuum cleaner being on. So, compared to other household appliances, it'd be
your stuff.
their stuff.
Oh,
That
okay,
that you know
okay,
that's
okay.
so again, it depends on what that what
What's
you
in the bed.
what you care about. But that's about we'll measure on the bed surface. That's about the EMF
Right.
level you're gonna get.
Yeah, I don't want any electric field anywhere near my bed. And I've gone to great lengths to make sure that it's not. Actually, another cool thing to do with your stuff, a hot tip for people. Um, I, how do I explain this? Okay, I have a EMF kill switch
Mm-hmm.
on the circuits in my room.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a remote, and when you go to sleep, click, everything in your room goes dead, all the outlets, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just turn off, so there's no electric fields in there. But yours is the one thing I do want to plug in. So what I did in LA, and we haven't moved into our house here, is I plugged it in the bathroom, and then I got a couple of your extension tubes, the water hoses, and made the extension tube like 15 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kept it in the bathroom, which
Yep.
also made the new one's relatively quiet, but there is a fan, and it also made it so we couldn't hear it because we had 2 of them running. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a hum. So that's how we got. I mean, there's like literally 0
No,
EMF
our,
in
Yeah.
the
our
bedroom.
customer experience team hates those stories because they're like, because people complain it doesn't get cold enough or whatever their issues are. Well, you're decreasing thermal efficiency the longer it runs through tubes.
But I put the
The
Doc
Doc
Pro
Pro.
on that any day.
Yeah,
like
you could-
Yeah.
go ahead. If you're
It
gonna
was-
do it, do it.
Even
with
with
that.
like my 15 feet of hoses, it was still plenty cold. I mean,
Yeah.
I never woke up hot or anything
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
no,
you
it just
know?
you're just gonna the headroom is really, and that's why we designed the Doc Pro, is that you need that headroom to get people cold enough again to achieve. We adapt to cold over time, so the longer you sleep on it, you may keep adjusting, want to adjust that cooler, and having the headroom to be able to get cold enough. Turns out being cold in the right time is pretty amazing. Back to that circadian rhythm. How do you reset after jet lag? How do you control that? The colder you can get that, the more succinct and the faster you get there, that's where you're going to get really great control of those sleep states.
I love it. I can't wait to reset my schedule so I don't play myself like I did last night. I was not expecting that. I mean, for people listening, this will come out pre-summer, but like if you live somewhere super hot, you won't have a problem with that anymore. Let me see. Okay, there's a couple things. I wanted to talk about what are some of the things, aside from not having our temperature regulated, but what are some of the main offenders in terms of things that will ruin your sleep? We covered blue light. What about alcohol, weed, eating windows, stuff that people might ingest that's going to actually ruin their sleep architecture or duration?
So when we think about sleep, we talk about the 3 pillars of sleep. The things you need to manage, the things you need to think about, or the levers you want to pull. One is mindset. So that's about being mindful, controlling that stress state, making sure you're peaceful. Behaviors is absolutely part of that. That's the second one. And then environmental. And those all have different levers within them. Weed, cannabis is one of those I get asked about all the time, and there's such a wide variation of what goes into you just say weed, because the combinations and terpenes, and it's a complex thing, but for the most part, if it's high THC, it's going to help relax you, but over time you'll see that ruin your deep sleep. We work with that with veterans a lot, and they'll use weed for pain or anxiety, and it will hurt your sleep over time. So we want to use it as a tool. Alcohol is another thing. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, so many people used alcohol to fall asleep. It was chronic across the country on use of alcohol. I think other countries as well, and a lot of depression. But it's terrible for your sleep. Back to the Doc Pro easy button. If you've misbehaved and you're out having fun with it, and it's just one of those nights, definitely adjust the temperature down. But alcohol over time is also going to really hurt not only your metabolism and make it hotter to sleep, but it also can, it really is a poison for your body. So it's about making sure you're understanding what your trade-offs are if you're using alcohol a lot, and what it does for
I
the
think
other things.
I haven't had a drink in a long time, but I remember going to bed drunk a lot, and always felt like I passed out, right?
Mhm.
You're like, oh, I passed out last night. I had a bunch of drinks. And then you feel like you slept all night, but I think there's a difference between being passed out and being asleep,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah, there's no deep sleep in that. It's all that light sleep that we talked about that's just
Right.
miscellaneous. You're technically out, you're technically unconscious, but you're not getting great sleep at all.
Good to know. Well, I don't have to worry about that one myself, but I know a lot of people,
Well,
and
yeah,
like to have a couple of cocktails, and I'm happy for them.
yeah,
But
it's not a problem. Just be smart about it. And again, if you're using temperature, you can mitigate most of it. It can't stop chronic use of alcohol, obviously, and all those other factors, but you can get away with a fair amount if you just adjust your temperature lower.
noted. Okay, cool. What is this EBB Versa headband, you guys? I don't think you guys make it, but it's another sleep
so
tool. What is
so we
that thing?
merged with the company Ebb Therapeutics
Okay.
December of 2020. Excuse me, December of 2020. So a little over a year and a half ago. And basically, it cools the prefrontal cortex. So they had designed, actually got an FDA approval for insomnia therapy to help people fall asleep. What we like about the device is not putting EMFs on your forehead all for 8 hours while you sleep. We think that's bad. But we do think that there's a use case for traveling. We think there's a use case for down regulating. It's sort of an intermittent use, and it does a lot of cool stuff about just basically cooling your prefrontal cortex. So slow the racing mind. So
I'm sure
that's
your grandma would appreciate, that keeping the cool head. It turns
Yeah,
out
yeah.
that keeping a cool head actually settles you down. It does, move you away from that stress response to a more relaxed state. It won't totally flip you, but it will help you unwind. So it is helpful. Our athletes will often use it because you warm up your body. You're also warming up your head when you warm up. So if you're going to an athletic event, but you still want a high cognitive self, keeping your head cool will help you have a better cognitive response rate. And so that's
Interesting.
where that's really powerful there. But again, if you can cool your core body, that's going to trigger your brainstem response to sleep. And that is more powerful still. But if you have a hard time falling asleep, you have high anxiety, you want to have something you can travel with for short periods of time, it does freeze the heck out of your
That's
forehead.
Yeah,
cool.
we see a lot of
I
people
want
use
to
it for
try that.
migraine relief as well.
I
So if you
bet.
just want to kind of hide in a dark
So
room,
does it run on batteries?
it does.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so the EMF you're talking about would be whatever,
The
just running the
TEC's
little
right
motor in
there.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's pretty cool though. I've noticed if I've ever felt a little panicky,
Hmm?
getting in an ice bath or a cold shower, just putting cold water on my head, like it really does calm
Yeah.
me down. Like
It,
if you're
it,
getting a bit fiery,
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
actually it's an ingrained response. So
Right.
if you ever are stressed out, to splash cold water on your face, cool your frontal face, even put an ice pack right on your chest, it'll trigger your vagus nerve, and you actually will get a more relaxed response almost immediately. So the cooling is just really powerful from a physics perspective. Taking entropy out of anything is going to help settle something down. It's a core value of the universe. If you can cool something down, you're going to be able to settle something down, take energy out of it.
I'm thinking about that term hot-headed. Oh, he's really hot-headed.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, when you're super pissed and triggered, your whole head feels like it's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Todd's
Okay.
laughing because he gets hopping up and down mad
Yeah.
when he gets
Yeah,
like that.
I've been
Really?
told I could be a hothead occasionally. Yes.
Does your head turn red?
It has. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has.
I mean, because you don't have hair, so like,
It-
No,
the
you
you would
whole
really be able to see the coloration in
Oh,
its
you
full
can-
and there's
Yeah.
no hiding it when
Yeah.
he's angry. It's very
The only
clear.
person in the universe that can make me literally hopping mad is Tara. Yeah, it's a special quality she has.
That's the power of like relationship, I guess.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. When you really know someone, I think that there's a different level of boundary you have in a
Mhm.
relationship when you love and know someone intimately, right? And then that also can mean that they annoy the shit out of you, and vice versa.
Yep.
Another thing I wanted to mention to people that could be useful is that you guys, because I haven't been on your site in quite a while, and I was going on there today. You have these certified renewed units on
Mhm.
there, which
Yep.
were considerably less expensive for people that
Yeah,
can't go
so,
the full Monty. What's up with that?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, so all of the units, when they come back to us, if they're either someone didn't love it, or they wanted to trade it out, or they wanted to upgrade to the Doc Pro, every control unit we get back, we refurbish. So if we can refurbish it to like new, we'll sell it as a new renewed unit, a refurbished unit. And if we can't refurbish it to like new, but it's still functional, we'll
I think it has
donate
a
it.
cosmetic blemish or
Yeah,
something
so-
like that.
And then or if it's maybe 2 years old, or we have kind of a date line, we'll actually donate that to first responders. So like in the last 18 months, we donated over $1 million of product to first responders.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
veterans
we,
and first responders.
yeah, so we use like whatever comes back to us, we'll launder and service the bedding, and we'll refurbish the control units, and either we'll resell it if it can make it like new, a new pad and then a refurbished control unit, or we'll donate it to people that need better sleep to do their jobs and make us
Wow.
safe and
Super cool.
take care of us. So
I'll give you a little business tip, guys. The refurbished ones that you can't tell that they've been used, you could just repackage them and sell them as new.
I know, but yeah, we've had all kinds of internal debate.
I'm obviously just kidding.
Yeah.
It tells me that you have integrity because you've done this instead of just like, they won't know, So.
Well, and like, yeah, we part of the warm up conversation, like, be our best selves, right? Like, we don't want to see like stuff going to a landfill. We want to see things reuse it, right?
Totally.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, from that kind of mantra of like, hey, let's put stuff back in motion. So we do have discounted prices for people with price points an issue. We've set up payment plans. We're trying to do everything we can to make this tech affordable. And a lot of people, that's why we have a 30-day money back guarantee. Like, let's just try it. Like, we even pay return shipping. Like, there's literally no risk. If someone wants to try it for 30 days, if you don't love it, we'll give you your money back. Like, we want people to sleep better. That's our focus. And if we do run our business right, we're going to make money, because like that's our scorecard. But it's not like make money first and then hopefully our customers will keep buying from us. It's like, no. Buy from us. If we can't change your sleep, we shouldn't get paid for it. We'll give you your money back. Like, that's kind of our approach to
I love
business.
that approach. I wish more businesses in all sectors did that. A lot of businesses done like take the money and run, right?
Kind of.
It's stupid. Actually, it's stupid just from me, at least according to me.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, for if you want to like really scale a company and you want to have lifetime value customers that are interested in, because you guys are innovating all the time. Oh, we got this thing now and that thing now. Like, if I was the customer that you pissed off, I don't care if you come up with 20 new things in the next couple of years. I'm not buying any of them because I had a bad experience.
Yep.
So super cool. All right, you guys. I think I've covered just about everything.
Awesome.
Oh no, I didn't. Psych. I noticed also you guys are you're very busy. You have now some sheets and mattress covers and different things like that. And then like for the bedding that's compatible with what you do, and also with the actual pads that carry this cold or warm or hot water. What have you guys done in terms of the materials, the off-gassing and stuff like this? Like, I've been pretty hardcore is whenever possible with using organic sheets and being mindful of flame retardants, and in the bed I've done my very best to make sure that it's as non-toxic of an environment as possible. How are you guys navigating the actual materials part of it aside from just temperature?
So the Dock Pro specifically on that product, it's our first bedding product that's coming out as a mattress pad that meets the mattress pad flame retardancy requirements with no chemicals. So there's no added chemicals to it. It's as natural as it could be. Now, we're not using all natural fiber, so I don't want to mislead anyone.
We're working on that.
We're using urethanes versus some other people that are using PVCs in it. PVCs are terrible for the environment. They last 10,000 years. They off-gas like crazy. If you're in a PVC factory, you can smell it from like miles away.
Really?
Urethane is much more friendly both for the environment and for the user. So urethane membranes and no FR in the Dock Pro pad or the Chilipad Pro. On our sheets and other things, we're using pre-washed materials. So everything we're doing is to keep the toxins out of it. So there is still the way we're dyeing the material, as with all, there's some, you have to put the dyes in to get the coloring, but we do have them all washed. So no FR chemicals. We're using lyocell material. So it has an all natural component, a natural cooling effect. They're really, really well designed. People struggle to get great sheets or to make sure that they're getting ones that will last and have a cooling effect. We're trying to do the right thing to deliver more products to keep our customers happy. So the mattress pad is another one. We know that with as your body naturally gives off a pint of fluid a night. And if you're sleeping with a Chilipad or Dock Pro in a high humidity environment with a high delta T, there's a chance you have condensation. So we want to give people tools to kind of keep the moisture out of their mattress. And even with the mattress protector, it's got highly breathable sides. It just put the urethane or the waterproof portion on the top of the bed, and so the rest of the bed still breathes really well, because keeping natural air movement is essential to managing that humidity and the temperature in the bed.
Right. Cool.
The
Cool.
moisture in the bed.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah, the breathability is such a huge issue. I mean, going back to the temperature, I'm thinking about traveling and sleeping on memory foam mattresses, or even my old mattress that was like a natural latex mattress. It's just like it seems like you hit a saturation point of temperature, and then all of a sudden you're just cooking. It's
Yeah.
like you're just like, it's like
Those
you're,
little bubbles absorb and they go.
is that what it
Yep.
is? You're like a boiled frog. You're like, oh, this feels great. It's so soft. And then, 2 hours into sleep, like, waking up with hot sweats,
That's exactly right. So at the base of the material, it reaches its heat carrying capacity. So it's like a heat sink for the first couple hours, and it feels great. And then it's the moment it's done, it can't take any more heat. That's when it feels like it's radiating the heat back at you. Now it's hot. So the mattress, now you're sleeping on a hot thing. We talk about the sleep cave, and that's like, all of us love a cool sleep, but the reality is you get to bed and you're sleeping in probably a thermal, something that's absorbing heat, and then you're putting blankets on top of you. And the more artificial materials, the worse you are off to having a natural being able to naturally maintain your temperature.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. When we move in this house, I've got two different we have two beds, because sometimes one of us can't sleep or need to get up at a different time. So we have the Essentia mattress coming.
Oh, yeah,
like
great.
a natural, super
Oh, those
organic,
guys, yep.
Yep.
just amazing mattresses. I've been wanting one forever. And then the Holy Grail, the Samina sleep system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been wanting one. I did a 45-minute documentary on that bed. It's so cool, many years ago. So we're gonna have like my two favorite beds in there,
Awesome. Great.
but I still don't know like how they're gonna sleep temperature wise. So
Mhm.
I'm thankful you guys did what you
Yep.
do. So I don't think they're gonna be like
No,
particularly
more
hot.
natural materials are going to respond
better,
way
right?
better. They're not going to absorb and then reflect back. It just, the more natural you can sleep. We joke about sleeping like a caveman. In general, the closer you get to that, the better you're going to sleep. Minus the rocks. No one wants to sleep in
Yeah.
rocks.
No, you may get some questions for people that have Samina beds that the grounding pad, our product is totally compatible with it. So we've done the testing that if you put the grounding pad beneath our thermal layers, that has no impact, that has the same efficacy of the
Oh,
grounding
cool.
effect of that grounding pad. So not a problem. We're doing the research. We know how it interacts
Dude,
with all the different
good
components.
thinking.
So yeah, that's
Well, I like what you were saying about you're actually grounding the water,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you guys will get around to measuring this, but I would think that your pad that with the grounded water is going to be producing a DC current.
Yeah. I
Right?
would think
It
so.
does.
We just
It does.
haven't done the
That's
testing.
because
but-
that's the purpose of grounding,
Right,
right?
that's
Is to
right.
get that DC current. When we installed the ice bath, the Morosco Forge ice bath at my house, I was like, of course, paranoid about EMFs because it plugs in and then you're in the water. It had a crazy high level of DC current, which is amazing. So it's like ultra grounded
Yeah.
because it's metal, and then that metal
great.
is grounded into the ground wire of the wall. And
That's great.
we were like, yes, not only is it not EMF, but
Absorb
it's
charge.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just like
great.
the best EMF from the planet. So
Mhm.
that's super cool. Water and conductivity is really
Water
fascinating.
is like absolutely like if we joke, not that I even buy lottery tickets, but what would you do if like someone handed you $1 billion? I'd be researching water. It's the most fascinating element ever. It is so cool, and the things you can do with water. And I think everything on the planet is headed towards, we need to figure out water sooner rather than later. We're doing it all wrong. We're treating water terribly,
I
and
know.
we need to figure that out.
I
But
know. I agree.
I
I just did a podcast, a solo cast last week, all about water, and as it was going to be one mega episode, and then I started making the manuscript, and it was going to be like 3 hours. It's basically like a short book that I put together, and I'm like, this is going to be 2 or 3 episodes, and then I started finding all these other water experts I want to interview. Yeah, it is nonstop.
water is fascinating.
Hey, speaking of water, this will be a fun thing to close on. If I'm not mistaken, your dad, Todd, invented the waterbed. Do I
My
have that
uncle.
right? Your uncle.
Yeah, my mom's brother.
Like
my
literally
uncle.
came up with the idea and like
It's
It was a
Charlie-
Jello chair to start. To be
a
fair.
Jello
got-
chair.
he's
I
got
want
all
a
kinds of
Jello.
stories.
That idea
Yeah.
I like. The
Yeah.
water beds didn't turn out as well as I would have
He's
hoped.
got all kinds of crazy stories. Awesome guy, serial entrepreneur. He's always been near water his whole life. Grew up on boats. But yeah, he's the original patent holder for the waterbed invented 51 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty cool.
I'm
So
old enough to remember those, and they were sort of positioned as a luxury item, you
Mhm.
know, like it would be a wealthier kids' parents that had them, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and you'd kind of
Yep.
play around on them and stuff. But from what I recall, and no offense to your uncle and his brilliance and the idea, I recall not so good for sleeping, actually. Like
well, there
the
was a lot.
moving
Yeah,
around, you
Yeah.
know, it's like it's hard to be
Yeah.
He was
still.
kind of groovy. He kind of walks like that, so he kind of liked the ergonomic
I
groove of
think
it.
it
That's
depends
funny.
on which vintage of waterbed. So it started with like a pleasure pit. The pleasure pit was the pleasure pit, right? It really
Okay.
wasn't so much about sleep. I think he had like 30 something patents. He eventually patented all kinds of different versions of waterbed. His whole premise was like sleep in the bed, not on the bed. And there's a lot of benefit to that. It's like let the bed surround you and take the pressure off you. So they
Okay.
eventually got to the point where the modern waterbeds actually did a pretty good job supporting you and were pretty good beds. But there was some sketchy times in the middle that you were sleeping on a big bag of
Well,
water.
yeah, he
Right,
designed it,
right.
in San Francisco in the height of
70s. Yeah.
70s.
Oh,
So,
funny.
it was definitely a groovy time.
Like a swinger bed? Okay,
A
I
little
see where
bit.
you're going with this.
A
I
little
was
bit.
way too young to even catch that. That went over my head. But I just remember like if you're on it and someone sits on it or lays on it, boing, then
Yeah.
Oh,
you
yeah.
pop up. You
Oh,
know?
Yeah,
yeah.
you gotta weight balance it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you sleep? And then there was things too where people would actually puncture them and
Mhm.
flood their house or something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, you know?
Oh, all kinds
But
of
you
horror
froze
stories.
your tail off if it didn't have its heater on. So again, the
Right.
power of water is really powerful, and he did harness that for sure.
I wanted to know what happened to the gel chair thing or what?
So
That
When
sounds-
that leaks, you get sticky, nasty stuff all over the
so
floor.
he invented it. It was part of his a thesis project for he was University of San Francisco Design School, and he started with the jello chair, trying to find just funky furniture. Everyone has a furniture project they have to do pretty much out of design school, right?
Okay.
So he started with the jello chair, and I think it was like 300 pounds. And I think if I understand the story correctly, they ended up like throwing it out of their third story bedroom window on Haight and Ashbury Street.
Wow.
So it was like classic. I mean, that was like epicenter hippiness. So yeah, it didn't work out. The jello chair it's hard to move around a 300-pound piece of chair. And I think literally it did have jello. I think it was literally a
Wow.
jello filled
Well, I'm
chair.
a supporter.
But,
I like the idea.
yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Because I'm really good at sitting. All right, you guys. So want to remind everyone you can find the show notes for this episode and any codes and stuff. We'll just put everything there at lukestory.com/sleep. I got one last question for y'all, and you can each answer. It's a three-parter. Who have been three teachers or teachings that have influenced you, your life, your work that you might share with us?
So mine are probably all very science skewed, and he has become for a lot of people sort of icon. Nikola Tesla, mostly from a patent perspective. I've got his quote actually on my desk and I'm gonna paraphrase it so I don't get it wrong. But the job of a scientist is not to change the world; it's to plant seeds so that the world can be changed as it should. And I do believe, how he went about scientifically looking at things, figuring things out. It was just phenomenal. A lot of his patents today are still actually behind the scenes by the government. They won't release all of them. He had insights into mobile phones and things well before anyone else. And the sense of the future really, really requires you to think well ahead, to think across science disciplines. He did all of that really well. So huge fan. He unfortunately wasn't treated very well with patents, but he should be respected for all that he did for science. It's pretty phenomenal.
Agreed. Yeah, he got pretty screwed over, right?
He
A lot
did.
of
He got
people
really screwed in the
jacked
end.
his stuff. Yeah.
But just amazing brain.
That's funny you mentioned that. I just want to interject really quick. I was listening to a gentleman who channels this being called Bashar, I think is the name yesterday. And someone was asking, what about, and he's like an alien kind of off-world type entity, this Bashar. And people listening to my show won't even be fazed by that. I'm just like, I know it sounds crazy, but anyway, he was saying some really interesting stuff. But someone in the audience asked, "What about free energy? Like, why haven't you guys, being these ETs, like given us access to technology so that we don't have to have cell towers everywhere and things like that?" And Bashar, the entity, answered, "We already have. We gave it to this guy Tesla, and you guys fucked it up.
Yeah.
But you could be carrying data on essentially like a harmonic of the Schumann resonance
Yeah.
and
Yep.
not have all this. It's totally here, available. You could do it anytime. This guy,
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla, got it right, and you guys kind of blew it. So we're going to just, that's all you get for now, basically, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Energy is definitely my thing. I actually went to school for physics for fusion energy.
Oh, wow.
Changing the world from an energy perspective, right there next to water. And I do feel like water has certain things to unlock in that energy realm that we haven't tapped into yet. But as far as other mentors, Lawrence Doyle, who worked under Carl Sagan and the SETI project and sort of the universe and cosmos, was by far probably my greatest mentor. We spent a lot of time talking about time and heat and entropy, which turns out to be part of the end result in a Doc Pro. But when you think about how the universe ages, it's not time by itself, it's time and heat. Time is a horrible variable by itself. It should never be set by itself. It should always be paired with something in order to have relevant matter to whoever you are. So talk about general relativity. It all has to have things tied to it. Time needs to be anchored, and it's anchored to heat when it talks about the age of the universe. So anytime we can take energy out and keep things cooler, we're actually slowing down entropy. We're slowing down the universe. And he was a big part of
Wow.
letting me
Cool.
be me on my energy journey.
Cool. That's two.
That's two. Well, it's
You
Carl
can-
Sagan before him, but I feel like I've taken a big chunk of it.
That's
I could go
okay.
on and on. I have a long list, so I probably should let Todd
That's
do.
totally acceptable.
So I'm
Okay.
like the antithesis of Tara's long list, which is probably why we work so well together. For me, it's all about who's influenced me at my moment of time. Like right now, I have to say that I've had kind of a somewhat infrequent but meaningful interaction with Rick Rubin, who's just been amazing. So I don't know if you've spent any time with him.
Yeah,
I know you
yeah.
have a relationship
Cool.
with him, but
Very cool.
I
guy.
think
he loves the chili
yeah,
sleep technology.
he's
Yeah,
he, actually it was Dave
actually,
Osprey.
actually, it's funny, dude. I remember going to his house in Malibu, which subsequently burned down. It was
Yeah.
an
Oh my
incredible freaking house. So cool. But he had I think it was the first Chilipad on both
right.
sides of the bed. And that might have been the first time I was like, oh, you can have two different temperatures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Super cool. Anyway.
So just he's a guy that what's amazing about being around him or being in his presence, and even communication to some extent, it's the first person I've ever been around where like you just want to be your best self, because there's enough pause in the interaction. There's enough silence or quietness that there's a sense of like who you are and who you could be. And I think that there's an incredible value, and for me it was transformative to a great extent, of being able to be around someone that just expects greatness from people, and not greatness from like from an ego standpoint, just expects each individual person to be their best self. And I'm sure he describes it a different way, but my interaction with him, that was definitely something that I took away from. It was every interaction I ever had with him was just amazing. And even just email correspondence or whatever, it's just there's just a pleasantness and enjoyment that goes from those interactions. And then I really feel like obviously I love working with Tara. She's been sort of inspiration in my life about how you can have a vision for things. I grew up in I'm not going to blame it on my parents, but I never learned to dream. I didn't think of like the future. I didn't have a futuristic version of myself. It was very sort of very present, but not futuristic thinking. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate working with Tara, of like her sense of the vision and how she can feel things. But I'm very much listen to what I need. I always have the things I need when I need them, but I don't really have a roster of the people most influential in my life per se.
Yeah, well, those are two good ones, and you got some major points shouting out the wife. Bro.
I know. I was gonna say.
I gotta remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It's funny when I ask people that question. Oftentimes, it's like their parents or their uncle or something like that, and then sometimes it's like Buddha, Jesus, Nikola Tesla. Sometimes they're these monumental figures, but oftentimes I think the people that we learn the most from are just the people that we're close with.
Mhm.
If we're close to people we like, that should be how it goes.
Awesome.
All right. I think we've done it, guys.
I think so.
Thank you
This
so
has been
much.
really fun.
Yeah, likewise. I'm so glad you got to join us for this round. And thank you guys for making the time to come here. live in the studio. It's always better that way.
Mm-hmm.
Living in Austin has been pretty good for that. Most
Yeah.
people are going to pass through at some point, or they'll come here to do it. So thank you so much, and can't wait for more people to discover what you do and see your next innovations. You guys are, like I said, I haven't been on the site in a while, and I was like, damn, they've been productive. There's all kinds of cool stuff
Yeah, man.
coming. So
Yeah,
looking
you'll
forward
have
to
to
it.
check out our new site. You can see it on our branding, but sleep.me is our new site. By
okay.
September, they'll combine and kind of match all of the branding parts, but you'll see meditations and yoga nidra and things starting to pop up there. Maybe we can even entice you to do
Awesome.
a content for us at some time there.
I
But
would love
that
to.
is our future state. Every me needs to sleep amazing and sleep easy and accessible
So
for
you
everyone.
guys are evolving into like a whole sleep brand.
It's all
Yep.
sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, everything
Cool.
that's sleep.
Love it, dude. And thanks for the t-shirt. Now I have the Sleep Me
Perfect.
t-shirt as well.
That's
Freeze your
right.
ass off.
Yep. Are you guys going to Paleo Effects?
Yes, we'll be there.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I will see you guys there. For those listening, pretty much everyone that's been on the show in the health space is going to be at Paleo Effects. So if you want to meet these two, you could probably come and meet them
Absolutely.
because
That's
I
right.
We'll be
think
there.
I'm pretty sure this will come out before that event.
Great.
So hopefully I
Yeah,
got
and
that.
then they can touch and feel the Doc Pro if they
Yep,
want.
it's the
'cause we'll
last
have it
weekend
there.
of April.
That's what I did at the last conference. I was like, ooh, this thing looked cool. Yeah. All right, you guys. Thanks for coming
Awesome.
in.
Thanks a bunch.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.